He put the sermon away, and opened the Bible, and read the 7th chapter of Revelations, beginning at the 9th verse. Before it was finished, most of his hearers were in tears. It came home to them as more appropriate than any sermon could have been. Even Sally, though full of anxiety as to what her fellow churchmen would think of such proceedings, let the sobs come freely as she heard the words. "And he said to me, These are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes, and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them, and shall lead them unto living fountains of waters, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes." "He preaches sermons sometimes," said Sally, nudging Mr Davis, as they rose from their knees at last. "I make no doubt there was as grand a sermon in yon paper book as ever we hear in church. I've heard him pray uncommon fine, quite beyond any but learned folk." Mr Bradshaw had been anxious to do something to testify his respect for the woman who, if all had entertained his opinions, would have been driven into hopeless sin. Accordingly, he ordered the first stonemason of the town to meet him in the chapel yard on Monday morning, to take measurement and receive directions for a tombstone. They threaded their way among the grassy heaps to where Ruth was buried, in the south corner, beneath the great wych elm. When they got there, Leonard raised himself up from the new stirred turf. His face was swollen with weeping, but when he saw Mr Bradshaw he calmed himself, and checked his sobs, and, as an explanation of being where he was when thus surprised, he could find nothing to say but the simple words, "My mother is dead, sir." His eyes sought those of Mr Bradshaw with a wild look of agony, as if to find comfort for that great loss in human sympathy, and at the first word, the first touch of Mr Bradshaw's hand on his shoulder, he burst out afresh. "Come, come, my boy. Mr Francis, I will see you about this to morrow. I will call at your house. Let me take you home. My poor fellow! Come, my lad, come." The first time for years that he had entered Mr Benson's house, he came leading and comforting her son, and for a moment he could not speak to his old friend, for the sympathy which choked up his voice and filled his eyes with tears. End of chapter 36. Ruth was read by Cynthia Lyons, Naperville, Illinois, winter and spring of 2008.